All right. Well, welcome everyone. We are delighted to have you here this afternoon. My name is Tracy Elliott. I'm the president and CEO of the Anti-Cruelty Society. And I know I've met many of you. If I haven't met you, I very much look forward to doing so. And we are really pleased that you've come today to listen to this. We are so excited about this series that we've developed that our phenomenal advancement team came up with for you to be able to see some of the behind the scenes work that's been done here. And I know some of you have been to every one of them, and I hope you've enjoyed them. This one is going to be really special. So first, welcomes. We have a number of Humane Heroes here today. Humane Heroes are the core donors to our organization who keep us being able to do our work year after year after year by donating an annual gift of at least $2,400. So we're really pleased to have you here. Also, another group that is critical to the future of the organization is our Rose Faye Thomas Society. As you know, Rose Faye Thomas was our founder in 1899. So we recognize those individuals who have made the society part of their legacy in your estate plan as Rose Faye Thomas Society. We will be having some events coming up for Rose Faye Thomas Society, some informational sessions, and of course, Rose Faye Thomas Society folks are invited to all of our other events too. So if you have this organization in your will or in your estate plan, and we do not know that yet, we'd love to know that so that we can add your name to the Rose Faye Thomas Society, make sure you get the recognition that you deserve. And also we have members of our Open Door Sustainers Club who give monthly at any dollar amount. Some of you have given every month on a monthly basis for over a decade, and we're really grateful for your generosity and support too. It is those regular donors who help us to ensure that we can continue from year to year with our work and helps us with our budgeting so we know how much money to expect, and you're just very important friends of ours. And lastly, other friends and partners who may be joining us for the first time, welcome. We are really delighted you're here. We want to share some really incredible and important work that is going on, and that's why these behind the scenes webinars allow you to learn more about what we do behind the scenes wherever you are. We have people all over the country and even internationally who join these, and we're really excited about that. I do want to thank our mission advancement team. If you all would just wave or indicate that you're here. We have an amazing team who contribute a lot of time bringing these to you. They're a lot of work, although we really enjoy doing them. And we enjoy the fact that you get to hear about what we do. So I'll give you a little update before we start the seminar on where we are right now with the organization, on our work and how we have adapted to a very odd and abnormal time in the life of the world and the life of the organization. But then you're going to get a real special treat. Our Vice President of Quality and Best Care, who's also our Chief Operations Officer, Darlene Duggan, and our medical director, who is new to us, and we're so excited to have her, Dr. Emily Sweniarski, are going to give you some idea about what it's like in our medical area and the kind of work we do to keep animals healthy, to rehabilitate animals that need rehabilitation, but also to help people in the community who can't afford vet care but love their animals. And so we're expanding the amount of care that we're providing there. If you have a question, we're going to have plenty of time at the end for question and answers, but the easiest way for us to do that is for you to put your questions in chat. So if you don't know how to do that, if you go down to the bottom of the screen, you see a little chat, the word chat and a little symbol there. Press that and you'll be able to type in any kind of question that you want. That will be helpful for us as we get to the question and answer period. So some of the highlights of what's going on here today. Last week was National Adoption Week, and we, sponsored by our friends at PetSmart Charities, who do so much for us. So please remember, when you go to PetSmart Charities and you're at the checkout and they ask you if you want to contribute $1, $2, $5, please do that, because that's where all that money comes from that PetSmart Charity has been giving us over the years. We had 59 animals adopted at the South Loop Everyday Adoption Center and our other PetSmart locations. That's where this event took place. We were also invited to NBC Tower for its Popsicle and Pups event, where 2 of our pups were adopted during that event. So it was an exciting week. Adoptions have been low since we have come out of the pandemic, and we've been struggling with capacity issues. So to have a week where we were able to get 59 animals into new homes from those locations is really exciting. We also recently launched something called Foster on the Spot. Our team's very innovative, comes up with phenomenal ideas about how to get animals into homes faster, because that's our goal. So Foster on the Spot gives potential adopters the opportunity to foster for 1 week any animal they think they might be interested in. And if successful, these families become an adoption ambassador, fosters, giving animals a home until they're adopted. And it's been really successful so far, helping to get animals into homes more quickly. And we look forward to sharing more about that new effort as it develops over time. But it's been a really initially very successful program. And finally, then, our veterinarians are critical to the health of our animals, frankly, for us to be able to operate with all these animals in this building, keeping them healthy, rehabilitating them, getting them ready for a new home. And also, obviously, to provide medical care for animals in the community. There is a veterinary shortage around the country, whether it's private veterinary hospitals and practices or shelters like ours. There are more companion animals right now in homes and in shelters waiting to go to home than we have vets to take care of them around the country. We recognized that problem very early on, got very, very proactive about how to solve that. And so we did a lot of things to make this a very, very attractive place for a vet to come and practice. So I'm excited to announce that we currently have 9 veterinarians on staff. And we are also working with funders to come up with programs that help encourage high school students to look at veterinary care as a career, and also working with University of Illinois and their vet school to help prepare their veterinary students too for shelter work. So we will share more again about this collective effort as we go along too. And then we have those 9 vets because we came up with an idea that how could we make sure that smaller shelters who don't have perhaps the financial resources, don't have an HR department, don't have recruiters like we have, how can we help them make sure that they take care of their animals? Because if they're not able to stay in business and care for their animals, we know that those animals are going to come here. We're going to have to take care of them anyway. So we came up with this idea of a vet hub, which is a partnership right now with South Suburban Humane Society and the Hinsdale Humane Society, where vets who work for us and who are paid by us are also helping those 2 organizations who are having a more difficult time staffing their vet departments. So some of our vets are working in those locations as well. They're being compensated for doing so. We are being compensated for doing so by those organizations. But they travel to South Suburban and Hinsdale to make sure that those organizations have the vet care they need and also are using the best practices in those organizations. Through these shared resources, which by the way is the future of how all of this is going to work, more and more collaboration, more sharing. We are better, all the organizations, ours and those other 2 and others that we will eventually bring into this vet hub, are better equipped to meet the rising population needs. We're all right now, every shelter in Chicago and many across the country, most who report their numbers across the country, are very, very stressed with many dogs, lots of big dogs in particular. So it'll help better meet those population needs. We can quickly implement new trends in care. Veterinary care is a science, so there's new approaches all the time. So we will be able to incorporate those new approaches, support each other during population crises. So if one has a particular crisis of being overfull, others can come in and help. And of course, we can respond to regional issues with greater efficiency. We developed this effort here. It is part of our commitment to provide leadership in this field to both the city and the country. And we are really excited about this effort. So more about that down the road as well. And then finally, we are going to be 125 years old in less than 2 years, which is a really frightening thing to say, because we have so many plans that have to come to completion before then. So we've been spending the last 3 years envisioning the future of the organization. What's the next 125 years going to look like? What is our highest and best use of our resources, our talent, and our leadership in the next 125 years to save more animals and to frankly make this a more humane community? So we are very close. We're literally almost at the finish line of completing that plan and bringing it to our board of directors who've been fully engaged in the planning too, but for final approval in August. And then we'll be able to share much of that with you. But it's really exciting. I think it's going to blow your minds, to be honest with you, what we plan to do. So stay tuned. I hope that teases you enough that you want to know more about that. So we'll be able to provide more details about that soon. So before we start the program, and I know you're ready to hear them and not me, we do have a really nice 2-minute video introducing the clinic services. And then following that, there'll be a conversation between Darlene and Dr. Emily, and then we'll have open Q&A following their conversation. So go ahead and run the video.
We're going to take you behind the scenes here at Anti-Cruelty Society's clinic. Shelter medicine has historically been a focus on individual animal needs as well as a population of animals, with infectious disease, high quality, high volume spay-neuter, and wellness services. But it's evolved into so much more. Veterinarians are caring for all underserved animals at animal shelters, community cats, and for pet parents who are otherwise lacking access to veterinary care. Here at Anti-Cruelty, we have 9 veterinarians on staff with over 100 years of veterinary experience combined. We've created a veterinarian hub, providing support to other shelters and combating the national veterinary shortage. We want to ensure best care for all animals at Anti-Cruelty Society and our shelter partners in the community for years to come. We have over 20 support staff that provide quality health monitoring, surgery, and all the treatments needed for the animals here at Anti-Cruelty. In 2021, we provided over 13,580 clinic services for pet parents without access to veterinary care. We provide these at a lower cost, including end-of-life services. And when transport is an issue, field services and our Pets for Life programs will transport the animals to us. We also like to bring veterinary care to pet parents, with wellness fairs once or twice per month in the communities that need it the most. We can service over 80 pets in a single day. Shelter medicine is ever evolving in how we care for the animals who need us the most. It is challenging but very rewarding to see adoptions and to keep pets healthy with their families.
Take it away, Darlene.
All right, I will. Thank you, Tracy, for the introduction, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Very excited today to talk to you about our clinic services and what is happening from a medical perspective with shelter medicine with the Anti-Cruelty Society. And just a brief moment to introduce myself for any on this call that I don't know. My name is Darlene Duggan, and as Tracy mentioned, I am the Chief Operations Officer here at the Anti-Cruelty Society. I have been here now about 2 years, just shy of 2 years. And I actually started my career in animal welfare with the Anti-Cruelty Society way long ago. We don't have to go into numbers and do the math there, but so it's good to be back. I jokingly refer to this as my second tour of duty, but so happy to be here and so happy to be part of all of the exciting changes and the future endeavors that we have served up for us here. The real star of today's show, however, is Dr. Emily Swiniarski, and I am eager to get her on screen and have her start talking a lot about shelter medicine and where it has been, where it's going as a field, what we're doing here specifically at the Anti-Cruelty Society regarding care of the shelter animals, care of the community animals, etc. So I will turn things over to Dr. Emily and allow her to introduce herself too.
Hi, everybody. So I go by Dr. Emily Swinarski. Is a bit challenging to say for some. I've been here for 4 months. Super excited to be with the Anti-Cruelty Society as their medical director. I started out in veterinary school at Iowa State and headed over to University of Florida for a shelter medicine internship specifically. And I've worked coast to coast, East Coast, West Coast, now happily in the Midwest, in a variety of shelters, as well as a clinic that was really more low income. We worked with rescue partner organizations, etc. And so the variety has really opened my eyes to what shelter medicine is and will be. So happy to be.
Excellent, excellent. Quite a resume that you bring to the table. So we, again, are just delighted that Dr. Emily is here, but wanted to talk a little bit, Dr. Emily, first about shelter medicine in general. That's a term that we use often, and we kind of use it in context of a shelter specifically, or the care that we're providing to the shelter animals. But can you give us kind of a brief overview of how is shelter medicine different from traditional veterinary medicine or private practice? You know, I think most of us, probably all of us on this call, have a pet or 2 or 10 at home that we are used to, you know, taking to the vet. How is that different from a traditional veterinary experience?
Yeah, traditional, private practices, they are focused on the health of a single animal at a single point in time, versus in shelter medicine, we're really all about trying to treat large groups of underserved animals. So yes, it has traditionally been used to talk about animal shelters, but really it has opened up over time. So it includes, the health of an entire population, not just one animal in the shelter, but all of them. But it can also be a population of, say, community cats, free roaming cats on the street. And in shelter medicine, we have to look at behavior as well. We recognize even more so having to temporarily house a variety of animals in a variety of places, that we need to keep their enrichment and socialization active and well, and mental health is just as important. So really not just about the shelter, it's about all the vulnerable animals in the community that need us.
That's a key point, I think. Thank you for that. So you and I have entered the shelter field, in the recent past at least. And it seems like things have changed quite a bit, specifically with shelter medicine and how we care for the animals, but just sheltering in general has changed. Can you tell us maybe a little bit about how the changes that we're seeing in providing vet care and how that relates to the evolution of shelter medicine?
Yeah, so shelter medicine definitely started out as an animal control type of situation where really it was created. Animal shelters were created to house stray animals. They didn't really have a thought to what happens next, but the goal was get the stray animals off the street. Over time, people recognized that the animals within those facilities didn't have the best welfare. And so there was a focus on, well, what is the outcome? It's adoption. Let's get them into a new family. And then over time, we realized that we have an animal shelter. We're tackling stray animals in the community, but a lot of what the community needs is actually more services for their pets that they already have or the pets they wish to obtain. And so beyond animal control, a lot of places started offering high quality, high volume spay neuter, moved on to wellness. We want to prevent disease in the community, prevent from seeing the disease in our shelter with new animals. And then after that, we realized the community really, really needed a full service for their pets. So it has evolved not just from a simple housing of stray animals, but to supporting an entire community's full, complete health. The vaccines, the spay neuter, and now the medical services for those who really can't afford it or can't get it elsewhere. There's been more and more expectation over time of what animal shelters provide the community. And it's a humongous challenge that almost every single year it feels like a stronger and stronger push, but at the same time, it's extremely rewarding and fascinating to watch that evolution take place.
Yeah, and for me, when I think about it too, in terms of the evolution, it almost parallels just kind of the evolution of animals and their place in our homes. You know, previously in previous generations, having a dog outside was good enough. And then people started building dog houses outside, and that was kind of the next generation. And now, you know, Fluffy and Rover and Rocky are sharing our beds. So it makes sense that we've seen this evolution as well on the shelter medicine side. So now kind of shifting gears and thinking specifically about our clinic here at River North at the Anti-Cruelty Society. Currently, what services do we offer to the community?
Yeah, so we offer services to sort of two different areas. We offer to our own shelter animals here in-house, but we also focus on the community aspect as well. We have 9 veterinarians on staff, like Tracy highlighted, and over 20 support staff. So we have a very solid team to try to provide the medical care that they need. We have what we call the care clinic, which is for the community. For both the shelter and the care clinic, we have up to 6 surgery tables running at any time. We're providing spay-neuter 5 days a week. We're also venturing into a lot of other surgery, especially for our shelter animals, and full complete dental care as well. In the dental realm, we actually have dental x-rays as well as, you know, all the high powered drill equipment, all the equipment you think of when you think of going to a dentist, essentially. So we're able to provide that high quality level of dentistry.
That just speaks to that evolution too, of it's not just vaccines, it's the full service.
It's the full package for sure. We have radiology as well, so x-rays. That means that we can treat urgent cases, chronic cases, every kind of thing. You know, we have the testing in-house, we have the blood work machines, we have the microscope, we have the ability to run tests in-house to kind of approach the animal or the population of animals right then and there and decide what they need the most. And that's why in 2021, I was just really impressed that there were so many clinic services offered to the community, over 13,580 services. That's a lot. And that actually provided care and services to over 1,300 families. So we know that even though it was a slightly slower year coming off of the COVID pandemic, we provided a massive service to the community in general. Another thing we do offer is end-of-life services. I think the community sees Anti-Cruelty as a trusted resource from start to the end of their pet's life. So that is basically how we run a very busy clinic and provide high quality treatment to the community and to the shelter animals.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to comment briefly on the end-of-life services. When I first started working with the Anti-Cruelty Society, I was on the team that would provide that euthanasia service for families. And I always talk about it. It is absolutely one of the most touching pieces of the work that we do that I've been a part of. To have a family come back after I always look at it as we're with that family when it's first starting and they're walking out with their new puppy, their new cat, and they're all excited. 10, 15 years later, it's incredible that they think of us at that period of their time, as well as they're kind of sending their loved one off to the Rainbow Bridge. But yeah, so thank you for that overview. It's definitely a busy shelter, lots going on. So that's kind of how things are situated at River North and how we operate out of our on-site shelter. Talk to us a little bit about the services that we provide to the community at that community level.
So actually we provide wellness services, of course, in the clinic at River North, but also we take those services to the community through wellness fairs. So far this year, we've had 4 wellness fairs. We have 1 or 2 per month when it's warm enough for people to come to us. We have Chicago, so far, right? In Chicago, it's a little unpredictable. Seems like it got a little too hot for a while too. So far this year, we have serviced 284 animals, which is 200 families through those wellness fairs alone. So we're going into the community as well as asking them to come to us. Of course, with the community, you guys maybe you were there for the previous behind the scenes with field services a couple months ago. They bring animals with all sorts of ranges of medical needs to the clinic as well. So recognizing that part of what Anti-Cruelty is trying to do is support the community that lacks access to veterinary care. And that can be cost, which is why we're here, why we have the care clinic, as well as transportation, right? So it's really hard to get your large dog if you don't have a car. So field services will oftentimes bring to the clinic or go out into the field and provide services to animals that need wellness, vaccines, spay, neuter, et cetera, or maybe they need urgent care. And so they transport them quickly. It can include a large volume of animals too, for some people that have many pets and get overwhelmed. We also provide services to people in the community who need temporary care and housing of their pets. So through our SAFE program, that tends to be people that are in a tough situation, might be something like they were just evicted, and they want their pet. We want to maintain the family, but in order to do that, they need their pet to go somewhere for a couple of months. So we don't just house them, right? We provide spay, neuter, the vaccines, any wellness, but also any care necessary to keep them happy and healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a loud one, sorry. The realities of shelter work. And I think for me too, that SAFE program and just the work that we're doing in the community and having this community centric focus is really indicative of that the work that we're doing has evolved as well. And again, we want to keep pets with the homes that they already have. And so we're starting to shift our services and our offerings at the Anti-Cruelty Society, but with animal welfare in general, towards that, service support rather than punitive of, oh, sorry, you were evicted. Well, then you can't keep your pet. We're going to take it here and rehome it. But the conversation turns into, let us help you while you're getting back on your feet. We'll take care of your dog or cat so that you guys can be reunited again. So SAFE is one of my favorite programs. And with the way that the economy is right now and the way, that we're coming off of this pandemic kind of upheaval, we've had a lot of reason to, a lot of folks have reached out for the SAFE program. So it's wonderful that we can provide and augment the SAFE housing with our medical care. So thank you for bringing that up. Earlier, I'm kind of shifting gears here a little bit. Earlier, Tracy had mentioned the vet shortage. You are kind of right in the thick of it, and hearing from both the pain and suffering that we're feeling at the sheltering level with not having enough veterinarians in private practice or patients in private practice as well. And so can you tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the vet shortage and, what's the reason for it? Do we even know and anything like that?
Yeah, interestingly, when I graduated 10 years ago, there was a prediction that there would be so many veterinarians that we wouldn't have a job when we graduated.
Wow.
I think that prediction may not have come true, but now we are seeing a vast shortage, right? Yeah, it didn't quite hit the mark. But regardless, we do have a shortage nationally. We have noticed that every sector of veterinary medicine is struggling to hire. And that's not just shelters, right? That's not just private clinics. That could be universities, specialty hospitals, things like that. So every single person is competing for a limited resource, which are veterinarians. And as an animal shelter or as a nonprofit, when you're in a competitive market, it's tough. Sometimes you have to look at your budget. Sometimes you have to look at adjusting expectations of veterinarians on the job. There are many small shelters that have one veterinarian, but they're kind of on call 24/7. Some things like that are really tough to maintain veterinarians with. They've actually opened up 2 programs that are meant to bridge the gap between veterinary technicians, which are instrumental to providing good care, and veterinarians. It's sort of like a physician's assistant, but instead of for humans, for animals. However, there are still some legal aspects to work out, right? So because it's a new position and it's not a veterinarian, it's not the same type of level of care that they could provide. And so there's still a lot of state law and legislature that needs to be looked at. Other ways are, of course, training the future veterinarians, especially in shelter medicine. We know that shelter medicine is a very valid, rewarding, excellent career choice, right? So training veterinary students to recognize the importance of shelter medicine and what it does for the community, but also internships. Shelters and private clinics provide internships. And I do have to comment too, speaking of veterinary shortage, even internships are having trouble filling their spots.
Wow.
So even that educational component that people are seeking is not filling up. So we're seeing a shortage across the country.
Yeah, a recent conference that I attended, there was a veterinary economist that was speaking exactly about this veterinary shortage. And there are some estimates that put us within the next 10 years that we will, as a nation, be short about 15,000 veterinarians. So that is really, really significant. So can we kind of shift gears then on that? So we know that there's this veterinary shortage for whatever reason or reasons. What are we doing at the Anti-Cruelty Society to sort of hedge ourselves against that, to make sure that we can continue to bring all of these services and all of the future plans that we have to the animals and to the community that we care for?
Yes, absolutely. So Anti-Cruelty Society, we have veterinary students coming for what we call an externship, which is a veterinary student that's close to graduation, comes here for at least 2 weeks, learns about shelter medicine, high quality, high volume spay neuter, all those good things. We have a very close relationship with the University of Illinois, and we are continuing to build upon that to make a lasting relationship with the university. We also have relationships with private clinics throughout Chicagoland. We're actually strengthening that as well. It really just helps bring in veterinarians that may volunteer. It helps bridge the gap between private practice and the shelter, and share a pool of resources for our community. We're also educating about even animal welfare and shelter medicine ideas in schools and with businesses and private clinics. We're offering continuing education for veterinarians into this next year. So we want to make sure that everybody's aware of shelter medicine, but also veterinary medicine, and build a community to be able to continue to care for the community. Of course, as Tracy mentioned, we have a veterinary hub. Mm-hmm. So 9 veterinarians sounds like a lot. Of course, we're all very, very busy. And those 2 of our veterinarians are actually shared with our shelter partners to provide much needed veterinary medical services for their not only shelter animals, but also the community in their areas. So this hub is critical to sort of combating that veterinary shortage and being able to provide to all the shelters in our community.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you for that. Okay, so we've touched on this, I think, in bits and pieces already, but to kind of bring us full circle, what's next for the Anti-Cruelty Society Shelter Medicine Clinic Services?
Yeah, there are a lot of good things happening here at Anti-Cruelty Society. Keeps us all
We're keeping you busy, aren't we?
But one of the things is we're expanding the care clinic. So again, things slowed down a little bit during the COVID pandemic, but we are ramping up providing services to the community at large. We are focused on providing high quality surgery as well as wellness, but also full service to pets. That it can include dentals. So for animals that need it the most, that have really, really terrible dental disease. And we actually do see urgent cases even for the public to bridge that gap in medicine, including an 80+ pound pup that came to our door a couple days ago with a very, very bad infection in her uterus, which needed immediate surgery. Her name was Bankroll, so I really like her name. But we're able to take a dog and with a fairly serious infection and do the things that she needed to get through that surgery, and then reunite her with her pet parents, and she's doing very well.
Perfect.
We're also building that relationship all the time with our shelter partners in Chicagoland. We're part of this coalition. We want to be able to spitball new ideas and share resources with all of our shelters, which expands our reach even further. And our private clinic network is growing. We're sharing resources with them and providing services for our adopters, as well as, like I said, that continuing education support for the veterinarians that work with us. We're also reaching out to specialists now. So here at Anti-Cruelty Society, we have 9 amazing veterinarians, right? But we're not specialists in other areas of medicine, such as neurology. So I wanted to share with you a case of a dog that we transported from the South, from a place that didn't have many resources at all. DJ, he's such a handsome boy. He came to us, but he was stumbling a little bit in his back legs. So in order to check up on him, ran some basic blood work, did full examinations, but I really couldn't pinpoint what the issue was. So we actually called up a neurologist, which is a specialist for nerve or brain issues in animals. And, you know, the neurologist diagnosed him with a specific pinched nerve in his very lower back. And if any of you have had that, it's quite painful. But we put him on the right medication and we found him a foster for the long term. And turns out I actually rechecked him about an hour ago. He's doing fantastic. And he is going to move to our adoption floor. So even though it was a higher level of resources, we have built new partnerships with these specialists. We have discovered that we have a lot of fosters with a lot of patience and hopefully some time for some of those more special cases. And we're moving forward to such a great outcome of putting him on the adoption floor. I think he'll get snatched up pretty fast.
Yeah, absolutely. He is definitely a looker, so he won't last long. Well, that's awesome. Thank you again for kind of walking us through where we've been, where we are, and where we're going. I will turn things over to questions. I don't know, Tracy, if you had seen any come through the chat. One thing I did want to mention actually before we tackle questions, if anybody's keeping up with the chat, Rhett had mentioned in the chat box there that the Anti-Cruelty Society, although we're almost 125 years old, any day now, we're going to be the ripe old age. Our clinic has been around since 1936. So almost in the beginning of the start of the Anti-Cruelty Society, our founders and the original team that was running the organization recognized this need for the clinical aspect of sheltering animals and helping the community in that way. So, I don't know about the rest of the team and the rest of us on this call that support anti-cruelty in so many different ways, but that just seems incredible to be part of an organization that has been doing this work for almost 125 years. And the fact that we get to carry it on and continue and to innovate and to push forward is just an incredible honor to me. So again, want to thank everybody for joining us, and hopefully we all learned a little bit more about shelter medicine and what we're doing here at the Anti-Cruelty Society. So now I will turn things over to questions if anybody has them.
Thank you very much, Darlene and Dr. Emily. I hope this makes it extremely clear to all of you who are with us today the brilliance of our staff, our team, the innovation that they bring to all of our work, and the impact we're going to have. And before questions, I do want to tell you a story. I hadn't been here very long, so it was pre-pandemic. I walked out of our door on Grand Avenue, and I must have had a logo shirt on, because a lady got out of a car and came over to me and said, "Do you work here?" And I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Well, could you help me?" And I said, "Tell me what you need." In the car was a young girl who was her daughter, and 3 Pomeranian dogs, and a lot of other stuff. And the long and the short of it is, this woman was living in her car. She had lost her job and lost her home, and she and her daughter and the 3 dogs were living in the car. And she explained to me how important those dogs were to her daughter at this period of time in their life. Speaking of dogs, mine is here with me today. And that the dogs had not seen a vet in quite some time, and she thought one of them might be sick. And to make a very long story short, I just got a call from her literally a month ago. We had been caring for those 3 animals. Chris Likas, our clinic manager, who's been with us for, I think, about 30 years, took this case and has been communicating with this woman regularly. We've been providing all the care that those 3 dogs need. And she called me the other day, the lady, and said, "I just can't even begin to tell you what this has done for us, and for my daughter in particular, that we've been able to keep these dogs and keep them healthy. And, things are getting better for us, but it's been a long struggle." And so that is why we do community medicine. Not only did we serve and make those 3 little cute dogs healthy, but we helped a family in deep distress, particularly a child in deep distress, a little bit, just by making sure that they had their dogs. And we gave them food, by the way, too. We've been providing food for them as part of what we've been doing during the pandemic. We're almost at 1 million pounds of food that we've given away since the beginning of the pandemic as well. So I also want to just really quickly mention and thank that we have 3 board members on the call today, which is great. Dr. Sheldon Rubin, who is a vet, so I know he is listening very carefully, and Barbara McLucas, a board member, and also Barbara Probus. They're all 3 with us today, so welcome to our board members. Now, we don't have any questions in chat, so let's just open it up, and if anybody has any questions, just unmute yourself and ask away.
I put a question in chat, Tracy. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I did.
It
I
says,
thought
what can we do? Is that the what we can?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. It said private question. I wasn't sure if that meant it was.
Oh, I'm
me
sorry.
personally. That's
Oh,
all right.
no. Sorry. I thought
Sorry.
we were-
Maybe. What can we, Anti-Cruelty's biggest supporters, do to help the clinic and the vets and the staff? Well, I'm going to take a first crack at this, and then I'll let the real people know. Obviously, I'll give you a little hint about what's coming in our Imagine 125 plan. Should it be approved as it's developing right now, and should we be able to execute it and raise enough money, we're going to be significantly expanding community care. We're going to have actually community care facilities in at least 2 neighborhoods in the community, because it is really difficult for folks without transportation to get animals to a veterinary office. And we also have done a heat map. We have mapped out every veterinary clinic, private and public, in the entire city. And there are places in the city where there's simply no veterinary practices. The only veterinary care available comes from organizations like us. And in many areas of the city, there's no organization serving them. So that's where we're going. We're targeting those areas, and we're going to have community vet care in those areas. So how can you help with that? Well, it's just continue to pay attention. And when we begin our funding campaign for this, we hope you'll step up and help to the degree that you can. Also, I think the other thing you can do for us, and Barbara, you're the best at this of anybody I know, is be an ambassador for us. Just let people in the community know what we're doing. Because I think when people find out that we aren't just an animal shelter here at Grand LaSalle, but we're doing all these other things, many new donors come to the table and say, I love this and I want to participate. And even organizations do that. We've had funding organizations that have, when they've found out that we're doing things in the community and not just here on this corner, have said, we want to be part of that. And they've written us some really significant checks. Darlene and Dr. Emily, any answer to that question from you all?
I just want to note too, as part of sort of spreading the word, when we look at our veterinary shortage, part of what a lot of veterinarians are seeking is a amazing culture, something that supports them, their innovations, their ideas. And so, as you know, Anti-Cruelty is one of those great cultural places. Don't hesitate to, share that sort of good piece of what Anti-Cruelty is, because as the community continues to recognize not only the great work that we do, but also that people thrive in their work here at Anti-Cruelty, that will help us with bridging the gap in finding new staff to fill those community care centers, veterinarians and support staff alike. So.
It's a great answer. And let me just say too, that when we recognized that this crisis was occurring, we got on it very quickly, put together a board staff task force to figure out how could we ensure that we could maintain our vet staff, and our board members were incredibly helpful. And then when we took the plan to our board, it had a fairly significant price tag, which scares everybody, but our board was 100% supportive in making sure that we care for our vets, we provide them what they need, that we're competitive in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. And then finally, of course, the most important thing of all is that we have a supportive culture where they can thrive. And that's what we're working on as well. Darlene, any answer to that question beyond what we've said?
Yes, to kind of echo what Tracy and Dr. Emily have been talking about, there's the vet shortage. So if you know of any students or college age considering going into veterinary medicine, this is a good time to get in. We need the talent, we need the people with the passion and the interest, and shelter medicine is turning into an actual specialty, a recognized specialty within the field. So it's a great time to be a part of that. but even younger children. We offer a whole lot of community programs that can spur interest and inspire our young learners to participate in sheltering in many varieties, not just from the vet side of things. There's lots of work to be done on the in an animal shelter. So that's another thing. And finally, volunteering. We do have 9 vets, and we do have 20 plus veterinary technicians and a whole lot of other support staff, but this organization couldn't run and couldn't be as successful as it is without our volunteers as well. So that's something to consider, and you can do that at the clinic level also. So if folks are interested, and again, circling back to young students and those who are for lack of a better term, vetting a career for themselves as well, that's a good way for them to get good experience and good exposure to really help drive that decision for them.
One of the things that we're doing to prepare for the future too, which I think is an incredibly innovative idea, and this is a little hint about what's coming in Imagine 125, we have a plan to develop a pet careers academy, because there's not only a shortage of vets who went to vet school, but also registered vet techs, vet assistants, and frankly, out in the community, dog walkers, sitters, groomers, there's a shortage of all of it. So we're going to go into some economically depressed neighborhoods and provide training for those careers, both so that we can make sure we have our own staff, but also to help the other shelters and frankly, help people find private employment in this field. We think it's a great way to extend our knowledge to the community and help build community, help economic development. And let me tell you, when we've gone down and talked to the aldermen, for instance, in the 9th Ward and the Chamber of Commerce down there and other people, that idea they are extremely excited about. And they're like, when can this happen? Well, we're going to get it done as quickly as possible, but it's providing training, jobs, and also a trained group of people to do this work that we have to do. So that's something that's coming down the line too. We do have another question. As a post-surgical recovery volunteer, yes, Marie, she is a superstar volunteer, let me tell you that. I have observed that the clinic currently does approximately 30 services per day. My question is, what is the target number? And do we need additional space to continue to grow? Well, I'm going to answer that question in this way. We need additional community presence for it to grow. There's really not space here in this location for it to grow. Plus, what we do here, it's more difficult for folks to get to us. So to do more work in the community, this is when we're going to have to establish these community service centers that we plan to do. Now, the maximum per day, and those questions, you've got the 2 operational experts up there on the top of the screen that can answer those questions.
So until we have that new space sort of identified and planned out, we do have some plans internal to expand how we're using and how we're making the most efficient use out of the space that we do have in the tables, the surgical tables, and the examination rooms, and the people resources that we do have. And so Dr. Emily has a very sophisticated and elaborate plan to kind of push that 30 into 40, perhaps 50. If we all keep our fingers crossed, maybe we can even hit 60 surgeries a day. So we will be making some tweaks to our processes and our protocols internal right now to help expand. And then, like Tracy was explaining, really then catapult that impact when we can open additional facilities in the community.
Exactly what Darlene was saying. I've been learning the last 4 months the processes of anti-cruelty, and they have so many great things happening, but we are focused in on, even discussing with national leaders in operations of both high quality, high volume spay neuter, as well as providing wellness to underserved communities. So we are taking the excellent base we already have, and actually improving, but it will take a little bit of time before we feel we're really ready. And then, like Darlene and Tracy have commented, thinking about some alternative space and also getting into the community that needs us would really expand our reach.
Darlene is a Green Belt Lean Six Sigma certified process expert, I guess, and she's working towards her black belt, which is the highest level. But what that is we are one of 2 shelters that I'm aware of that are using and adapting manufacturing efficiency approaches so that more work can get done with less time. And you can also reduce your error rate, because we have error rates like everybody else. We're instituting those in the clinic, among other places, to be able to do more work, be able to serve more animals, and to do it more efficiently and effectively, and to reduce our error rate. It's a really odd thing to think about, that we're using those methods. However, hospitals are doing so also for the same thing, to reduce costs and to increase patient volume and decrease the amount of time that a patient has to be in a post-surgical ward or something of that nature. So we're doing that as well. That, when it's fully executed, will get us a lot more efficiency. So we'll be able to do more surgeries, particularly spay-neuter surgeries, but see more patients and help more animals in the same period of time as we do now with the same amount of staff. So we're literally, I guess you could say, attacking this issue from every single vantage point that we know how to do. More training for staff, new protocols that are absolutely at the cutting edge of this science, as well as using perhaps some unusual approaches to try to increase our productivity and reduce our error rate. I've always told people that when you're making widgets and you make an error, the widget doesn't feel pain. When you are dealing with a sentient being and an error occurs, and they inevitably will, it causes pain. So we have a moral obligation to do everything we know how to do to reduce errors, and to provide the absolute best care we can. So we've set a standard here that we call best care. Mm-hmm. And it is our primary, if you're a Star Trek fan, it's the prime directive. And that is that we will provide the highest level of care that is possible for every animal who is in our care. And we're working towards that standard. And we have, as you can tell, the right people in place to make that a reality. That's not a pipe dream. That's not a promise we can't fulfill. We will fulfill it. We are fulfilling it, and we'll continue to do so. Any other questions? Well, thank you so much, Dr. Emily and Darlene, for sharing so much of what you do and the importance of our clinic and our medical program. I don't know, I even learned some things today. So thank you very much for that. I hope you all did as well. Our time is up today. Excuse me, but I want to thank you for joining us for this behind the scenes discussion. If there are other topics that you're interested in, please let us know. We want to be able to provide the behind the scenes information on things that you're interested in. Next month, be sure to join us for our next webinar on August 24th, which is about plan giving. And we have an expert, Kirk Hoopengarner, that is a name, Hoopengarner, an estate attorney, and a lead partner at Quarles and Brady LLP. We learned recently that he just provided a similar seminar for the donors of Northwestern University. So he is quite a well-known expert, and he will help you with any ideas you might be having or questions you have about estate planning. And we'll be excited at that time to share with you about how legacy gifts to the Anti-Cruelty Society really ensure our future, and the impact they have already had on our operations is phenomenal, but this is the way to sustain what we're doing for the next 125 years. So lastly, we have an event coming up in September. It's a while away, but it's going to be fun. It's called Pour Your Heart Out, and it'll be held September 22nd. It's going to be an event that features products from 15 breweries, distilleries, and wineries. My goodness, make sure and take an Uber. We will get the information out to you soon. You can go to anticruelty.org/pour, P-O-U-R, to get your $50 early bird tickets right now. And then you can rest your liver for a couple weeks in advance and have a lot of fun there. But it also, of course, will provide us much needed funds to care for even more animals. So thank you so much for your presence here today, and we wish you all the best.